Freiermuth isn't getting the football anywhere near what any of us, including Freiermuth himself, had expected. So why is the guy still so stoked? Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates that I hope you'll check out as well. Steelers versus Chargers, 1:02 p.m. kickoff Sunday at Acrisure Stadium, the home opener. And in an ideal setting, it'll be the breakout for what was expected to be a somewhat Freiermuth-based offense under Arthur Smith. Instead, he's been targeted only 8 times. And without having this information as some drop-dead certainty, it hasn't appeared to me that he's been the primary target who's been ignored on checkdowns either. He has just literally been targeted only 8 times through 2 games. Now, that said, before I take this any further, I want to make it really clear that he's done a lot with those 8 targets. In fact, he's caught all 8 of those for 62 yards, including 32 yards he's added after the catch, 4 of those 8 catches generating first downs. That's pretty good for 8 targets. So why is this happening, and what'll it take to change it? Now, I've got a couple of explanations first. One you've already heard. That was that the Atlanta safeties took away the middle of the field. Smith decided, I think wisely, to not try to attack the Falcons at their strongest suit. I spoke with Freiermuth in Atlanta about exactly that, and all he did was shake his head and say, don't worry about it. Don't worry. We all knew this. This was what we were doing coming in here. No issue at all. So go out to Denver, and Freiermuth gets a couple of balls in the range of the middle of the field, makes some stuff happen, but again, still not significant volume. And when the Steelers got down close to the end zone, it was the other tight end, Darnell Washington, who was targeted. And beautifully so, by the way. That was a practice, as Darnell would make known after the game all week long. They'd been setting the stage for exactly what you saw. And sure enough, if you saw Freiermuth on that play, what he did was make a quick bend to the right while Darnell went to the left. So again, I see Freiermuth afterward, and he's again just, super wound up. He's excited about what just happened. Not so much about the second half and the 62 total yards. Obviously, nobody could have been excited about that. But the apparent reason, and this isn't Freiermuth, this is me saying this, for the low targets this time was just that nothing went right in the second half, in large part because of the offensive line. And Smith got a little too conservative there, I thought. Sean Payton and the Denver staff made an adjustment. They had more bodies up at the front to stop Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. They did so. The Steelers never tried to soften them up schematically from there, and there it went. So if you're a supporter of all this, if you're a supporter of Freiermuth's in general, you're thinking the way he is, which is it's just going to come. If you're cynical about this, you'll continue saying what you've been saying all summer, which is that Freiermuth's not exactly Travis Kelce. He's not the kind that's going to get open and make stuff happen unconditionally. He's certainly not the type who's going to be shut down by your own coordinator before facing a specific opponent because you fear their safeties. The Chiefs don't fear anybody when it comes to their own 87. And to me, the truth is somewhere in the middle there, but then I remember Cincinnati, and I know you remember Cincinnati. Yes, the Bengals were idiotic with that defensive formation. They were idiotic in the first half. They were twice as idiotic for sticking with it in the second half. They handed Freiermuth the middle of the field. They just said, here, come and get it. So he did, and almost single-handedly wrecked them. Now, I don't expect to see that from the Chargers. In fact, I don't know that I expect to see that from anybody ever again. But I do believe that this offense, in the visible absence of a true WR2, cannot afford to let their opponents double up on George Pickens. And I think that's what's going to happen Why? Because Jim Harbaugh, the last time I checked, is still a Harbaugh. And both he and his brother in Baltimore have a tendency to do exactly that. They'll find the one player they'd prefer to take away, Bill Belichick style, and say, okay, now go ahead and beat me with your other 10. If I'm Smith, I can't let the Chargers do that. I have to get Freiermuth involved. I have to throw over the line to soften up the fronts for Najee and Jalen and, of course, Justin Fields when he runs. I can't allow a recurrence of the second half in Denver. Got to keep this thing moving. Got to get Freiermuth more involved. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Matt, who says, DK, how is the Broderick Jones situation any different than Kevin Dotson's? And why shouldn't this be setting off alarm bells about the Steelers' coaching/development of young offensive linemen? Promising rookie year, vague whispers and leaks from the organization that they're not pleased with his effort or preparation, positional uncertainty. Dotson ended up losing his job in Pittsburgh, but he seems to be thriving in Los Angeles, and it all seems a little familiar. Matt, this is now a pretty common perspective that's being shared among the fans from the best of my ability to gauge this sort of thing, and I don't see it. I just don't. Mostly because there really wasn't anything wrong with Dotson in Pittsburgh. This is a guy that I spent a lot of time with in his tenure with the Steelers. And this was a guy, when he was here, who was pretty blunt on pretty much whatever you'd bring up. Dotson knew he could run block. That's how Dotson got his starting position in the first place. If you'll recall, Matt Filer going down, Dotson was used in an emergency, and Dotson was taking dudes 8-10 yards downfield. That didn't start in L.A. That started in Pittsburgh. Dotson wasn't nearly as strong on pass blocking, but he wasn't exactly a disaster at it either. And I'm talking again about when he was here. So what happened to him? Well, nothing really. Andy Weidl was hired to be Omar Khan's assistant GM after both of them had applied for the GM's job and interviewed for it. And it was a significant part of Weidl's vision to have the Steelers be big, dominant physically, and appropriately athletic, kind of the way his Eagles were. And he believed and shared with the rest of the front office that getting Isaac Seumalo was going to be a great, great thing for the Steelers. And you might recall when the Steelers did get Seumalo, that none other than Jason Kelce, while he was still employed in Philadelphia, went public in saying that that's incredible for Pittsburgh and it's a huge loss for us. So there was now a ton of money in both guards. Seumalo was making a ton. James Daniels was making a ton. And they were going to play. Now add on to that they've both been good in Pittsburgh, sometimes a lot better than good, and in Daniels' case, I think really underappreciated. And there just wasn't room for Dotson. There wasn't a place for him to play. You could have kept him as a reserve guard. He could have complained about it, and then you would have had one of those volunteers, not hostages situations. But there he goes. So I don't think that Dotson went somewhere else and just somebody touched his forehead with a magic wand and made him good. He's doing things that work to his strengths, again, with an eye toward run blocking. And look, if you want to pick on the Steelers as it relates to being unable to develop offensive linemen, please never include Kendrick Green in that. Green's not doing anything right now. What happened with Green was he went somewhere else, he suited up, everyone heard or read about it, and assumed that he's just been great since then. He hasn't. Go look it up. Dotson has, Green hasn't. Green's just not very good, okay? I don't mean to be mean or whatever. He's just not. And finally to this, if you're going to say that they can't do this or that with young offensive linemen, then good luck explaining what we've seen out of Zach Frazier these past couple weeks, or what we've seen out of Troy Fautanu already, or, and actually this would be the best one of all, go look at what Broderick Jones put on tape in 2023. Same dude, even younger, even less experienced. Nobody spoke a peep about him his entire rookie season. There's a reason for that. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.